Okay, good morning, students, and welcome for today's class lecture. So, what we are actually going to do is we're going to start with the first unit, which is understanding advertising and promotion. Okay, so let me actually go into details with the different things that we have there for your clarification. And if you have any questions, you can always ask me later in class. So I start with the first thing, which is called the definition of advertisement. Now, what is advertisement? Right? Advertisement, it's a form. Uh, it's a medium which actually targets to reach a broader audience, right? And it get paid for it for doing this work, and it's a type of communication. What sort of communication is it? It's a persuasive communication where it tries to convince us as customers, sometimes tries to make us undergo a views total change of views that happens. And using it uses an interactive media. It's a mass media which reaches us to the bulk audience, and it's interactive. And what's the main purpose? It's to connect with the sponsor and the buyer. Sponsor means the person or the organization who's paying for this ad. Okay, what does it provide? It provides information about the goods. It could be goods, services, ideas, so we can say products. And it also helps in interpreting the product features in terms of the customer's needs and wants. Okay, so the next thing that comes up is the nature of advertisement. So advertisement, what can be the what are the different what is the nature of advertisement that we have? It's a form of communication, communicating to the mass media, mass society. Communication is structured. You do not say anything anything under the sun which doesn't make sense, but it is structured. The communication is structured, which makes sense, which has a meaning. It is persuasive. It forces us to think, rethink, think, sometimes rethink, and sometimes it helps us to have a total change in our thoughts. We come up with new ideas. We start believing what is being said. So our pre-notions gets changed. It's targeted towards a particular group of audience, a targeted audience. It's paid by sponsors. Sponsors means usually it's the someone from the company who's paying it. It's usually the top management, and advertisement does use a channel of communication. It cannot be done just like that. It can be any form of communication channel. So, what are the key components of advertising? First is there has to be a strategy, definite strategy as to how do you go about with that advertising, right? And what is the purpose of that advertising? That's why it's objective. There has to be a message in that the advertisement that is being done. You need to choose a proper media, and advertising should be also eligible for evaluation in how to make it better, whether it's creating a right impact on the customers, and take their feedback and come up with something better. Okay, so the question that comes up is, why do companies and businesses do advertising? Why do they do it? So there are 5 objectives. One, getting attention of the products, that is to be goods, it could be services that the company wants to sell. It could be a new one, it could be an old one, it could be innovated one of the existing product or service. So but customers need to get know about it so that they can buy. uh, it targets in replacing the lost customers, like customers who have got lost, right? Company, if the company is not doing well, the customers are shifting to another company, another provider which is providing with better product services. So what will happen to this company? The revenue starts going decreasing. So the company needs customers, new customers who would replace the old ones. Prompting immediate action. So advertising is done, what happens, it reaches out to customers in a way so that customer starts purchasing. Immediate action, that's why immediate action. Building a brand awareness, brand of the company. People should be aware of that brand, and through word of mouth, more and more people start getting aware of it. And of course, increasing the sales and the profits of the company. So the factors that needs to be taken into consideration before making an advertisement. First, it's uniqueness. So advertisement, when we talk about advertisement, it's talking about being creative, right? More creative when advertising, it has a greater effect. So, and which means that the advertising has to be unique. There has to be something unique in that advertisement, which was not seen, people had not seen before. But they can relate to the message that the advertisement is actually trying to say. So it has to be unique. See this, this is a very famous ad that we had on Fevicol, which has never been done before. And you don't have any other company which is coming up with this sort of ad. Like this was very famous ad, something unique message. So it joins unity. It's talk of unity. If you see this, it's parallel message from unity. If you united, if you're united, you are more stronger, right? So that's the message that Fevicol helps to join, unite, brings about unity. Second factor is psychology. Now psychology this is a very important concept, and any company has to know when they're creating an ad, they have to do a market research about the customers behavioral pattern, because they have to understand the customer's psychology, right? The target customer psychology, that is very, very important. So psychology, that's why the psychology plays a very, very important role when we talk of advertising, right? Any advertising which can actually look into the minds of the people, they can actually study it very carefully and can address that, and which has a longing impact in the minds of people, is more effective, right? So what happens, like when do we actually get to remember something, and when it's very funny, when it's sad, when it's something inspiring to us, or it's some educational message comes up. Okay. Third that comes up is presentation and selection of suitable media. Right now, to influence your customers, it's important to choose a suitable media. Right, suitable media, because their company has to ensure like where they are going to advertise their product. It's very important to choose the right kind of media so that you can target the audience, and if it's bulk, so that it reaches to the mass society. Okay. Fourth comes up is regional culture. Any ad or advertisement, as we say, if it is done in the local language and culture, that has more effectiveness, and they are able to convey their message in a better way. Teasers. Teasers is, it's a type of story which comes up before the actual the message comes up for that ad, before we actually get to know what the ad is about. So that teasers, it's actually makes the audience more inquisitive. What is it about? What is the advertisement about? And that has a greater impact on the audience, rather than directly starting with what your company is talking about, what it is. So if you have a story behind before, that has a great impact. Okay. Next comes up is where we talk of content. Now, what happens is, uh, the purpose of advertising, as we said, is to promote the right mission of the company and its products. Right now, in order to do that, what has to be proper, there has to be a proper content in that advertisement, which makes sense, which there has to be some concrete message. So there are 4 different types of contents that can be delivered, that can deliver a message. The first things, the way the product works. How does the product work? Who are the choosing the role models, and why they prefer that product. A spokesperson who could be a celebrity showing his or her linkage with the product, how he or she is linked with the product, and something significant parallel, just as I was showing to you about the what we call a parallel story about unity helps joining. So parallelly, a parallel story which would help in actually driving to the main point. Okay, so this helps. And what happens if you can actually come up with the right content? So you can actually choose to maximize the delivery of the message within a shorter period of time. Okay. The last factor that we have is brand and product category experience. Now, a very good advertisement depends upon consumers' experience with the brand and the product, and that helps in determining which factor makes an impact. So consumer feedback needs to be there. Okay, so if we say the consumer has not experienced the product category, then what happens? Then the main thing that has to be there, you have to think of the ad which in terms of the benefits to the customers. That's the most important factor. Second comes up is where consumer has experienced a product, has that product category, but the brand is new. So in that case, highlighting on the brand image. So positioning in the market comes up. Okay, so we have an example of Reliance. When Reliance Mobile was coming up, it said, I have something in me, something new. You know about mobile, but you do not know that Reliance has come out with a brand with their mobile when they came out. And the third type when we have is if the customer has experienced the product category and as well as the brand, then what happens? They're completely new for it and not new to it at all. Then there has to be some element of surprise in that ad, which would actually make the customers also want to see it and purchase it. For example, like what happened was uh, Coca-Cola and Cadbury, right? Everyone knows about the brand, people have liked it. So what happens? How do they promote? They promote by saying that they are part of their celebrations and get together. So that's how people get to know about it. That's how they remember. So this is an takeaway assignment for you. So you just go through it. uh, and also reflection, like we'll go into that, like it's basically on creative brief, right? Why it's important, and what is it and why is it made. So let's go into details of creative brief. What is creative brief? So it's the very basic foundation of any advertising or marketing campaign. Okay, so it's actually a written document, as we say, metaphorical treasure map, which is there. Treasure map is which is written out, and looking into it, you start finding out the treasure. So it's there up there. Okay, so it's actually tells you where to find your ideas, right? And also how to open up that ideas, which would if you search that idea, it will help you in coming up with a bigger reward, or as we say, a treasure, right? So what is it's in other words, it's a document. Okay, it's a document which is produced by the consumers. Why? With the expectation that some creative work will be established, right? By the led by the ad, the company. So it could be a print ad, it could be about a website banner, whatever it is, right? Okay. So now, if we actually look into the definition as per Edward Bosch, uh, creative brief is a blueprint, it's a guideline, and also a sense of inspiration, right? It talks about the objectives, the audience, the message, the content, right? It also talks about the timing, how much time, and budget. So in short, it talks about the what is it, who are the target customers, where it's going to be launched, when, right? So what happens is now it is this creative brief, this written document is used by the project managers or the other professionals which because it acts as a guideline for developing the actual creative contents which is used for the campaign. This is the, as we say, it's a framework guideline based on which you can start creating your materials for the campaign, right? uh, so a well developed content brief will have 2 pages, usually 2 pages in length, and is enough to outline the goal of the material, the establish the direction that it should be taking, and also defines who are the target customers, the message, and the desired results. Right? It also states the communication strategy and the context. So in order to ensure that all the creative materials that's being delivered will be produced in such a way which is in line with the existing strategy. So that's a guideline. Okay, so next comes up, like as we said, so as we had already spoken earlier, so the main function of a creative brief is, as we said, it's a guideline, but it's written by not just by people, or not just one person, but multiple people, with, in response to the request by a customer to come up with something creative or creative service, right? And this is respond they are this the group of people who are actually making this creative brief. Yes, it should be done in a way so that the creative brief is will be guiding or will be responsible for the activity that has to be clearly, that has to be undertaken, right? So which has to be in line with which tells what's expected, as well as the communication, what should be the communication strategy. So now what happens is, when we are actually coming up with a creative brief, uh, there has something has to be kept in mind, as per what HubSpot has said, that the creative briefs there has to be one primary function, that is to inspire the creative team, the team which is doing it, to come up with something very brilliant, some brilliant ideas and effective communication within communication respond, which would solve a particular problem. Problems can be solved in different ways, but here when we talk of ad, come up with something very unique, something really brilliant solution. Choose the right form of communication to answer that problem. So what happens is, when we for that, what has to be there is the creative team that is designing this creative brief should have the right frame of mind to come up with something innovative and a creative solution, right? So what does that also means, like there should be some creative professionals who would be using this creative brief in developing proper messages and materials, right? That would not only talk about the company's communication strategy, but also would ensure that it's made successful as in the right possible way. Okay, so which means what? When you work on something very creative, it cannot be one man's job. There has to be a team of professionals from various fields. Okay, different fields. Why do we need this? Because one person, if they start talking, that you can be actually be very much biased, your ideas become very narrow, right? So if you have multiple people working, different people, different ideas, you come up with something innovative and make the work more innovative, something very unique, and that would be able to target the customers in the right way. Your objectives will be fulfilled. That's important. Okay, and if one person makes a mistake, there are others who are there to actually say and rectify. So that's why it has to be done. And when we talk of creative briefs, any creative briefs that should be developed after a thorough situation and audience analysis. Analyze the situation. It's very, very important to analyze the situation based on which this ad is made, this content. What is the situation and who are the audience? Analyze it, right? Then only can better knowledge. And when you have a lot of people, more knowledge, more experience, you come up with the desired results and that would be more effective. Okay. Next comes up is the classification of advertising. We can classify advertising with the help of target by looking to the target audience. It could be your consumers, it could be business. Second way of classifying is with the help of geographical area. It could be within the country, national, and outside the country, that is international. Third comes up is with the help of choosing the right medium. It could be print media, broadcast, mail, or an interactive. And the fourth type that we have is by purpose. Purpose could be a product, it could be on a product, it could be commercial, non-commercial action, awareness, it could be anything. Okay, let's go into more details about it. Now, when we talk of classification of advertising by medium, right? So, advertisers, they do pay for advertising, right? For accomplishing a wide range of goals, right? So it's advertising generally it comes up there can be two types two forms of advertising. One is when we say long term branding communication, the other is short term response advertising. Now branding is basically when we are talking about building the reputation of your company, right? So that is basically it's long term, right? So it doesn't it is irrespective of any marketplace, right? Whereas when we talk of short terms are basically where we talk of revenue generation or cash. So we have sales promotions. That's where sales promotions comes from. These are short term objectives. So based on the company's objectives, budget, and target audience, companies advertise through any of the following ways: through broadcasting, through print, through support media, through direct marketing, through product endorsement, or through internet. Okay, so broadcast media, when we say we are talking of TV, example is TV, radio. And what happens? Television. When we talk of television, it offers more creative opportunities, a more dynamic message, and a wider audience. But it's very expensive medium to advertise. And TV viewers, they have a very negative attitude towards commercials, TV commercials, because they're watching some serials, and between these comes up, it affects them. They have a negative effect, right? But both radio and TV have fleeting messages. There are multiple messages. It varies. Radio is comparatively more affordable for small businesses, and the radio is where you can allow for more repetition of the ad, and there's more frequent as compared to television. But the disadvantage that comes up is audience, which is there. That's quite a distracted audience. They're not concentrating because you're hearing, you're not seeing something, right? When you see something, it has more effect. Okay, the next type that we have is print media. Now, print media, it could be either magazines, it could be newspapers. Magazines, what happens? It has a highly selective audience. It doesn't target everyone. Selective audience, and the visual image lasts longer than newspapers we throw off. So it can be kept magazines, right? And they have a target audience. So where niche means a target new, they are very, very targeted, something new. They try to target some new markets which nobody has thought of, and so they use a narrow target segment, so very small target segment. Okay, but it's costly, right? And it requires long lead times. Lead times is the time gap between planning and actually implementing it. So it takes long time there, because you have to come up with pictures, glossy, and that type of pictures which should be attractive and all those things. And it's costly also. And they have also limited audience, right? Everyone will not buy magazines. Newspapers are, on the other hand, more affordable. Local businesses, they can target a geographical segment, right? If you have a product which is universal product or service, you can target a huge area. It can be there. So it is also viewed as a credible medium, which is authentic. Newspapers are authentic, so which helps in people accepting it. and ad is placed within a day or two of purchase. Like what happens, the ad will, you know that tomorrow they purchase, people are going to buy the newspaper, so the ad is placed, like people go and go to the newspaper office, put that ad 1 day or 2 days ahead, that next day or 2 days later this ad has to come, so it's immediate, right? But what happens today, newspaper is declining in circulation, people are more and more onto social media, so they get all the information, right? And it has a short term, because after a day newspapers are thrown, and it also has limited visual credibility. If you Because newspaper usually will have information, stories of the entire of around the world that has happened in the last 24 hours, so there's very less space for actually having colorful and ads, or with the ads with visuals. That's more costly, it takes a lot of space. Okay, the third type of media that we have is support media, and it could be the billboards, bus benches, the transits that we have, aerials, directories, trade publications. So it can read a wider audience in a local or regional market. It's people are crossing by, you can see at the bus stops, those hoardings, directories, you can see it. And it helps in increasing the frequency of message exposed to targeted market segments, because you will be able to see, if you're there in the bus stop, you will be able to see if you're sitting there, or if you are having trade publications, if you look into that publications, you'll find it. So people who are interested will, that's a target market segment, they will be having access to all this. Fourth type is where we talk of digital marketing. Digital marketing can be direct mail, email, or telemarketing. What happens? You can get direct response, right? There can be weekly or monthly email newspapers to keep you update on the brand, products, or messages, right? It also allows a company to track their customer responses, and also helps advertisers to come up with better measure return on investment. Now, what happens? The telemarketing, it's a way of surveying survey customers and take their feedbacks, which would help in improving new products, upgrades, or come up with renewals of their products, right? When we talk of direct mail is the most common format of direct marketing, where the company sends mails or postcards to target customers for promoting their products, deals, right? Promoting products or any sort of services, anything. Next comes up is product placement. Now, product placement, this is basically when it's done when you have some TV shows, movies, video game, or anything where the company gives that TV, that showmaker, some compensation to use their products while they are entertaining their audiences. So you suppose a serial is going on, and then a particular scene comes up where that product is depicted. We're talking about that product, right? So that's a way that companies use to integrate ads with entertainment. So you're integrating it. Okay, so the advantage is customers cannot avoid that message, because it's part of that entertainment show where it's there, and the message is exposed for a very short period of time. Yeah, it's not that people are going on and on talking about it, so it's a short period of time, but related with that entertainment, and so people take it in a positive way. Next is the last thing that we have is internet and digital marketing, right? Where we talk of the banner ads, the pop-up ads, text ads, paid search placements are there, keyword planner, Google ad, Facebook ads, Bing ads, App Store search ads. So that's another type of advertising. Okay, next comes up is communication process and advertising, right? Communication process and advertising. So we all know how the communication process runs. Sender sends a message which is encoded in an encoded form, and using a proper channel to go to the receiver, who decodes it and then sends a feedback to the sender. Okay, so this encoding thing, the channel and receiver. So that's important. How you what sort of channel you use, who are your customers, how do you send this message? That's important here. That's where the advertising comes into play. Okay, now when we talk of this communication process, we have a sponsor. Sponsor has, is a person or a group of person or an organization who has the message to communicate and is also responsible for the ad. Because the author is the one who's creating the ads or message, and persona is who acts or lends his voice on that ad. Someone has to give voiceover, so that's persona. How is the message? What message can be? How can the message be sending? Like what sort of, not how, let's say, what sort of form does the message actually take? One autobiographical message talking about, one starts talking about their own lives. It's through a story form telling, or narrating an incident, or in the form of a drama. That's how the message is being transferred. Okay. Receiver. Now, receiver, there are three types of receivers. One is implied, that is which whom the company feels that they would be our, this is assumption that they would be our target, they would be our customers. May not be, right? It's just an assumption. Sponsorial consumers are those who are actually sponsoring this ad. These are members of the company, like it's usually the top level management who are paying for this ad. Right? They decide whether the ad would go on, whether they would not go on. They make the decision. And actual consumers are they're the real consumers who are actually seeing that ad, who are actually going to purchase or decide whether to purchase or not to purchase. Okay, next comes up is, that's the last thing that we have, is steps in planning and executing an ad campaign, right? So first is to identify who your target audience is, who is the audience for which you are making this ad, right? So then set the objectives. What is the objective for that advertisement? What is the purpose, right? Whether to create brand awareness, whether to come up not create a brand awareness, but whether a brand is already there, less just as Coca-Cola and Cadbury we said, but then people try to relate it with some festivals, or whether it's coming up with some innovative ideas. So it's that has to be there. Then is the budget. What is your budget? Accordingly, you have to set your budget, come up with a proper message. How would you convey that message? So there has to be a proper, that's where the content brief comes up, which tells you like what should be the message, how would you convey, what should be the message, and how would you convey that message. Choosing a right communication medium, evaluate the ad, evaluate the message, right, and select the right medium for communication. Then create your advertisement accordingly, and it should be some that has an impact, right? It has to create impact on the mass media, right? So that's all that we have for today's class. That's all that we have in this unit. Uh, that's all that we have, right? And we'll see you in the next class.